I'm Lisa Pickering, and welcome to CITV's Press Talk. Here's the most recent news and information from the government of Bermuda.
Good afternoon. The 2017 throne speech laid out government's commitment to a better, fairer Bermuda. Throughout the document, you will find our determination to make our island home a better place to live. Importantly, we must come to grips with the staggering numbers of road fatalities. The carnage on our roads is sobering, to say the least. We are seeing an epidemic of road deaths, and we must address this aggressively. The government will have to consider making driver's education a requirement earlier in life, and it is becoming clear that speed cameras and license plate recognition technology are becoming what we need to consider and possibly will become a reality. In addition, we are committed to working with the police to implement roadside sobriety testing in this parliamentary year. We also believe in a more dependable public transportation system. Daily service is important to so many of our people, getting to work, back home from work, our children getting to and from school. With a reduced number of buses and a reduced number of mechanics at DPT, we have not kept up with this demand. So we have moved quickly to source local mechanics to expedite and repair our buses. We determined the need for even more personnel dedicated to maintenance of our fleet. After having become government, we discovered that more than 14 positions, funded positions, were left vacant due to the government's hiring freeze. This has clearly affected our ability to have proper maintenance, having almost half of the required maintenance staff not there, despite the posts being funded. The hiring freeze has now been lifted, thankfully, for the Department of Public Transport, which allows the ministry to get on with hiring the needed staff and to keep our buses on the road and working towards having as much of the fleet as we can on the road. There is also equipment important to maintenance of buses, which is broken, and the investment has to be made to guarantee that we can properly repair our buses. So an investment has to be made also to the equipment that is required to ensure proper maintenance and care of our buses. We are still expecting 4 new buses in the end of the year, and we are preparing an RFP for additional buses after we receive those 4 buses. We are also working with our manufacturers to source external support for mechanics and also equipment necessary to maintain the fleet. The minibus program we previously announced to ensure students got to school has been running since we signed the contract some weeks ago. Over a 2-week period during this time, they did 250 runs and carried almost 6,000 persons. The contract is for this term, and we hope that around the end of the year, we will no longer need the use of the minibus, but we appreciate the contribution they have made. It was always only a temporary measure, and we look forward to ensuring that through this term that they will assist us in the lift that is required. With regard to the ferry service, things have been much better this year than last, with a considerable amount of our ferry fleet is currently operational. The Millennium Ferry, which was contracted for a period of time, that contract is coming to an end, and we will not be renewing it any further. With regard to transportation more universally, we live in a new age. It's an age of mini cars, it's an age of electric cars, it's an age which is even creeping closer to having cars that don't have people driving it. Truly an automobile, if you take that term to its full definition. With all the changes, it is important to take stock of the future of private and public transport in general for Bermuda. Our thorough review will lead to a green paper on the future of transport in Bermuda. The last transportation paper was done in 2002, so it is really time for us to look again at transportation generally, public and private, and an opportunity to give the public input on how we can shape transportation going forward before establishing a new blueprint for transportation for Bermuda. We intend to make transportation options more useful for all of our citizens, for every Bermudian. This includes the introduction of forms of electronic payment for public transport, which we believe will make locals and visitors alike their use much easier. And my own discussions with the staff at Public Transport, they are in support of these measures being considered and put in place. They are enthusiastic about a new road forward for public transport with this new technology. My ministry is also responsible for energy. This involves the development of policy, legislation, and regulation in order to ensure that we have a secure energy future for the island. We are sitting and sifting through various proposals aimed at tackling an island that currently has the highest energy costs in the world, or certainly close to the highest energy costs in the world. We believe getting a handle on our energy usage and costs, that will be part of the focus of the review, and also looking at new entrepreneurial opportunities that can ensure that as our energy space develops, this island can grow. The cost of energy is an inhibitor to opportunities for growth. So we have to tackle this. We have to find a way to stabilize and have energy more affordable. I would just like to bear in mind to the public, it's going to mean better conservation and efficiency practices, not only by those who produce energy, but also those of us who use it. We believe energy independence and freedom from an over-reliance on fossil fuels is a part of the future. But we also believe it will lead Bermuda to greater economic opportunity. With those comments about my ministry concluded, I'd just like to make sure that I say some other comments, particularly about an upcoming event. And as everyone knows that tomorrow there's going to be a telethon by the West Indian Association called Give from the Heart. This telethon takes place Thursday evening, tomorrow. This is a hurricane relief fundraising campaign that will raise money for the islands to the south, which we all know have been devastated by Irma and Maria, and other hurricanes which have even come after, has seen some parts of the Caribbean, like Central America, devastated. Both hurricanes, Maria and Irma, were Category 5s, and this event, which will be held at the Barclay Institute Cafetorium, aired on local television, ZBM, BBC, broadcasting from 6 p.m. to 7 and from 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. tomorrow night, is an effort to raise $100,000 towards this relief from the people of Bermuda. We encourage everyone to participate, to give in any way they can. The government is supportive of these efforts, as we've already announced, and the government has, in its own way, matched funds that were raised through the Red Cross, but we're now calling on the community-wide to support. Even the government workers have done a denim day recently to give support to this effort. So we're encouraging local companies to do the same in ways they can, and every person, every resident of this island We have been gifted with, up to this point, with no hurricanes coming our way that have done any damage. That is a gift, that is a blessing, so let's share some of our blessings with our friends and families to the south. Thank you. Any questions?
Oh, thanks. Hi, Minister. Yeah, you mentioned the hiring of additional mechanics. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of bus route cancellations
Yes.
that we hear sort of the day before. It's early days yet, but do we have any rough timeline when there might be a diminishing of the cancellations as a daily event?
Well, I do believe in the last few days we've had minimal cancellations, particularly in the morning. The challenge with the afternoon is that once the buses get running during the day, the ones that we rely on for the regular routes, because of their state, more break down. So the nighttime gives us some relief, so we can have minimal cancellations in the morning. But the plan is over the next 2 to 3 weeks is to bring this number down considerably. There has been some stabilization in the cancellations and the buses out of route. We now are getting more buses available. Yesterday's number was, I think we had about 50% of the buses running. It's been much lower in past week. So I'm encouraged that every person at DPT is working to turn the situation around with the equipment and with the resources they have. I deal with this daily, and I am confident that they're working as hard as they can. We do believe that the new buses at the end of the year, which are coming, will provide a bit of relief, but we're going to have to make a solid investment in newer buses to help really provide the redundancy so that we can have much more buses on the route and less cancellations.
Minister, with the contract for the Millennium coming to an end, are you confident that or do you foresee any changes happening to the St. George's schedule?
No, we will look at changes we can make to ensure more lift to St. George's. The Millennium Ferry being retained was part of a plan to ensure that we could upgrade and have a proper maintenance of the existing fleet. That has happened. So there's no need for Millennium now because we have all of our ferries in a state of affairs of which they all can run. So we'll look at making some changes that can add possibly some additional lift for St. George's. But we also need to call, and I call for the St. George's community to use the ferry. One of the reasons why some of that lift was reduced is because there was low demand coming out of the east. So I'm asking and hoping that the St. George's community who really want a ferry respond, and when and if we can put one back on, that they use it. Because that's what ensures you have the lift.
You've been watching Press Talk right here on CITV. Join us next time for your government's news and information. I'm Lisa Pickering.